Ladies and gentlemen, I have a series on this channel called Road to Grandmaster. And in that series, I go on the road to the Grandmaster chess title. Shocking stuff. Now, some of you watch every episode, and I really appreciate that. Some of you are just jumping in somewhere in the middle. This video is being recorded July 1st, 2025, at the halfway point of the year, roughly. And right now, the analogy that I would give is I am out with a significant injury. I've been out for several months. Since January of this year, my confidence in chess has been really low. Really low. I'm not confident in training sessions. I'm not confident in any sort of competitive environment. But in this video, I'm going to show you 3 games that I played where I played at a very consistent Grandmaster level. I was very proud of all 3 of these games. I handled my nerves quite well, and I'll be showing them with you. Sharing them with you. Showing them to you, but sharing them with you. Now, you're going to learn a few things as well. Even though these games are obviously at a higher level, and sometimes it's not so easy to learn from master level games, here we go. This last one, by the way, the third one I'm going to show you, unbelievably stupid. But first, you're going to have to sit through an appetizer or main course. And then for dessert, you will get to make fun of me because the game was just absolutely stupid. So in this first game, I am playing, I think, a young player from Italy. This person is strong. And obviously 2,900 on chess.com. And in this game, I played one of my favorite ridiculous openings, the Trumpowski, but the Trumpowski attack against a non-existent knight, which then my opponent put on f6, and then it became a regular Trumpowski, which would have been d4, knight f6, bishop g5. I play this opening all the time. I have a Chessly course on it. If you don't know what Chessly is, the educational platform me and my team are building, and it's a great opening. I took, and then I played something here, which I played in an over-the-board tournament recently, which is the move c4. Pawn to c4 targets the pawn on the d5 square. You kind of want your opponent to capture, depending on how they play. Will they play it passively? That's what my opponent did. My opponent played it like this, very passively, and then in this position played this move f5. So my opponent took up a stonewall structure. It's a structure where every pawn is on the same color. You have good control over the middle. You don't have a g pawn, but maybe you're not going to be castling in the future anyway. Maybe you're going to be using the g file to start an attack. White here can play very slow, very passive. Knight f3 here, castles, etc. But I played the move queen h5. I thought this was a daring move. I'm putting pressure on the f7 pawn. I'd like to castle. I don't want my queen to sit passively on the c2 square. I want the queen to be active. My opponent plays the best move, which is knight to d7, immediately developing the knight and trying to replace the other knight on the traditionally best squares of f6. I took on d5 here. My opponent attacked my queen. I thought this was all normal. I moved my queen, and then my opponent went here. So far, so good, right? Now, at this point, I need to finish up my development. Since we both traded c-pawns, there's a lower likelihood I'm going to castle this way, and if I do castle this way, I'm going to need to get my king over to b1 pretty quickly because the c-file is going to be up for grabs. And also, I was like, well, this is a very easy move to play. Normally, checks like this are no good. But in this case, my opponent and I are simply going to trade, and he's going to have to take a step backwards. Because if he takes with the queen, he hangs his knight. If he takes with the king, that just looks stupid. So he went here, and I said, I am going to put my queen actively on the f4 square. From the opening, the computer slightly prefers white. I don't think it's all that significant. Opponent goes here. I develop this knight. Opponent plays bishop d6, and I go actively in with my knight to e5, still maintaining both options of castling. I also have queen h6. I also have g4 ideas to create an attack in the future, and my opponent plays the move rook g8, and I castle directly into the rook. So that is the best move, right? I played this position in a brave way. Now I know that black is not going to be castling this way. This is kind of the drawback of black's position, is that if you want to use this rook to attack somebody, you're not actually going to be able to, successfully get your king to safety. And here I actually thought I was in a little bit of trouble, right? Because knight g4 is a very strong move. It looks like there's pressure here. The queen is coming. This is defended. And then here I was like, wait a minute. What if I just go here? Sometimes a piece enters your position, and it really is as simple as, can I just attack it? Like, what was the idea? And sometimes people don't have an idea, and my opponent took on e5 and moved the bishop back, but this voluntary trade and retreat from this position only helped me. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to jump forward immediately. I have ideas like rook c1. I have ideas like getting the knight to d6 or to c7. Black does not have enough of an attack. So let's try to see how we're going to coordinate our 4 remaining pieces and our strongest pawn here, which controls important squares in the black position. Queen to b6, and now I found queen to a4. I was very proud of this move. Queen to b6, and I go queen to a4, simultaneously defending the knight and setting up a discovered attack against the king. The king is now going to have to move, and that gives me information for the remainder of the game. That is where the king is going to stay. The king is going to be right here in this area. It's not going to go that way. Now, very easy. Rook c1, looking for an opportunity to infiltrate into the black position on the c-file. The black rook is not going to get a c-file of its own. My knight is pushed back, and I play knight to d4. And again, here I calculated correctly. It is too dangerous for my opponent to take the pawn on b2. Oftentimes, fun fact, b2 and b7 pawns are called poison pawns, because what they do is they allow the rooks into the position. Yet the computer thinks this is the only move. The computer thinks that if black wants to survive, ever, queen takes b2 is the only move. Then I might come here, I'm going to try to come here, etc. Okay? He goes here, though. And now I played rook c3. Again, the best move. It has been rare for me in the year 2025 to play good moves very consistently. And in this game, I was finding excellent moves. I found the move pawn to h3. I then found the idea of knight b5 and queen a4. I found this, and then I found this idea of rook c3, simultaneously trying to double the rooks, but also to attack on the b file. So I'm not even trying to double the rooks. I'm trying to bring my rooks in together on adjacent files to completely overwhelm. Queen to a7. As you can tell, with the king here, the queen completely stuck opposite, the rook's just kind of staring into nothing. It's just a matter of time. So I infiltrate with my rook to c7, and then I bring back up. This is a totally dominating position, but how do you win a position like this where everything in black's position is seemingly protected? Well, you can start sacrificing. That's not going to work here. Then you start looking at, well, okay, how can I use my overwhelming advantage to put pressure? So I played queen a5. Queen a5 set up various ideas like queen to b6, maybe queen b3 was even better. He goes here, and I play queen to b6, and it looks like I'm in trouble here, but I'm not. Because I realized I can give a check, and then I can go, and I can take the pawn on b7, and that is exactly what I did. So now not only do I have an overwhelming position, I'm also up a pawn, and I'm probably also going to win the second pawn, and then I'm probably going to win the endgame. When you're playing a position like this with black, you need to just start creating counterplay. So black is going to try to do that. I completely shut it down. Knight f3, and the second my opponent weakens his position, I play here, and my opponent ran out of time. But they're going to lose one pawn, a second pawn, and they might even lose a piece. The only move here to survive is probably king f7, but the nastiest thing about king f7 is I don't have to do anything. They cannot move the rook, they cannot move the bishop, they cannot move the king except moving it back and forth. If fe, h5, a4, I mean b5, there is no, black doesn't have a move. Black has to end up giving up everything. I was really proud of this game. I played this game above 90%, and this next game I was also very proud of. Now, like I already told you in the intro, the last game was really hilarious. It was a good game, but it was a bit stupid at the end. Now, again, in this game, playing 2850. In the next game, I played a 2880. All very strong players. They beat a lot of grandmasters all the time when they play, and I was very proud of myself. So I've been playing a lot more Modern and King's Indian recently because I'm working on the King's Indian course on Chessly, which should be out very, very soon. Maybe even today, tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow, maybe. I played bishop g7. I played c5, and my opponent played, I'm trying to play this variation called the B feeder, where you take the knight on c3. My opponent didn't let me do it, but this lets black get a very comfortable position after you trade, castle, and play this move d5. Already from the opening, after just 7 moves, black has an advantage. Now, what I have always said, it's not my openings that hold me back. It's not my openings. It's my practical decision-making in late middle game and down the stretch into the end game, as well as my, stamina and nervous system. That's what fails me, is that as we get deeper into the game and the pressure gets higher, I start fading, which is not what you can do in chess. You need to be sharp the entire time. Which is why I'm having a sip of coffee, which tastes disgusting because I just brushed my teeth, and toothpaste and coffee, not a recommended combination. Rook c1. And here. From the opening in this game, I knew I was better. White has what's called an IQP, isolated queen's pawn. And if you start trading all the pieces, like the bishop and the knight, what's going to happen is I'll end up blockading the pawn, putting pressure on that pawn, putting my rook and my other rook, and then I'm just going to win the pawn. So my opponent here tries to say, well, you know what? You could take my bishop instead. And that's exactly what I did, because actually after this transformation of the position, I'm still better. So I took the bishop because that was the whole justification of my play. He has to go here, takes. Now, the reason why all of this works, right? The reason I calculated a sequence here, I was very proud of the sequence as well. This is a pretty easy sequence to calculate. Why? You take the bishop, you know that it's not going to be taken by the queen because the queen needs to guard the bishop. This is how you calculate in chess, right? This is my idea. Can they take with the queen? No. Can they take with the pawn? Yes, we'll work on that. Can they also do something else? A lot of you don't ask yourself that question. Can they also do something else? Yes, they can take the bishop on e6. On the one hand, I can take back, but then my knight would be hanging. Can I do something with this knight? So knight takes e3, bishop e6, I have knight takes g2, check. When the king moves, I can then either take the bishop or bring the knight back, attacking the queen and the bishop, and then I have a substantial advantage. So that means that the bishop cannot take the bishop, which means the only option is pawn takes. And then after knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, queen takes, I like that the queen is a target, and I also like that I have this pawn break e5. That is how you calculate in chess. That's not easy. That was a very advanced calculation, but I did that. Knight e3, took me about 9 seconds to come up with this. I saw this sequence, it was the only sequence. And now you gotta ask yourself, what does white want? White in this position wants to castle and advance the pawns probably. I wanna stop that from happening. So how do you stop your opponent from castling? You can bribe them. You can also create threats against their position and improve yours. Rook c8's a great move. Rook c8's a fantastic move. It's the best move in the position. The rook targets the queen. And I'm also threatening knight takes pawn because it's defended by my bishop. So when I take, I would have a discovered attack on the queen, which means the queen has to move, and it does move. And now's the final moment. White's next move is this move castles. How do I stop that from happening? It's not easy. It's not easy to stop that from happening. I only have one way to do it. It's to move e5. Why does this move stop white from castling? Well, white has to acknowledge this. White can't just lose a pawn. If white takes, white ends up with a gigantic weakness, an isolated pawn, not a queen's pawn, just an isolated pawn with no neighbors, directly in the line of sight of my rook, of my queen, right, of my bishop maybe. And if white goes here, which looks like everything is completely fine, I actually have an incredible move here, which I missed. I played the second best move. I could have just jumped directly into the middle, exposing the fact that, again, white has not castled. And after pawn takes, I have rook e8 ideas. So this would have been, you know, really, really nice. But I didn't do that. Instead, I went here, which I thought was equally strong because now the center is going to clear out. He took my knight. I took the knight. Take, castle. Here I was like, well, I'm just better. Why am I better? This pawn's weak. What should I be careful about? Probably, you know, the rook and the queen checkmating me. This bishop is also better than that knight because there's weaknesses over there. But it's still a game. You know, you still have to play accurately. I played this move h5 here, trying to take some space on the queen side, also making sure, queen side, king side, making sure that my king is always safe. But over the next few moves, you know, my opponent, you know, he came up with a very nice idea, put his knight in the middle like this, and he was just giving me the pawn on b2. And I was like, it's a free pawn. And here I can give a check and play like this. So now I have an extra pawn. Does white's position look very nice? For sure. White knight looks strong. Queen and rook look good. But if you really ask yourself, does white have any threats? The answer to the question is no. White doesn't have any threats. Not a single threat. There's no threats. Okay, now there's a threat. Now there are officially 0 threats. Everything is protected. The knight cannot check me. If anything, I will also put my king on g7. I will cover f6. The only real question becomes, how do I win the game? Not so simple. If I start moving pawns in front of my king as a necessary evil, right, to trade, I might weaken my king. Now here my opponent infiltrates, and here I again came up with a very nice defensive idea, rook to f6, sacrificing my rook against this knight, and I'm going to win this one back. And again, the more pieces that get traded, white doesn't have any attack. He goes back, and here I went here. But of course, it wouldn't be a Gotham game unless there was a throw. And I know that's negative self-talk, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. It was a miracle I didn't throw the first game. This game, I did something beyond idiotic. Here I played the move b5. I thought this was a very easy game. a5, b4, I just advance. My opponent got desperate and played the move g4. And if you look at this position, you think, well, you can take and probably go here. You can also just shut it down. You don't have to take. Right, of course. This move loses all of the advantage. You know, I played bishop d4, and my idea was I can take the knight and then take the pawn. I just spaced out on the fact that my opponent can take my pawn, and that's what he did, and now I'm not even better. And I have a history of doing this. When we get deep into the game like this, I start panicking. My brain stops actually processing moves normally. The move g4 comes in, you take a look at it and you go, do I want to take and open things up, or do I want to push and keep things closed? And both are actually okay. You can also play rook h8 and reinforce the pawn and completely reverse the play, right? But instead I go here, and after this, I'm just not even up a pawn anymore. I guess my opponent was really scared about this and went here. And then, you know, I re-centralized and we get into a scramble. He has 2 seconds, right? So when you have 2 seconds on the clock, of course, you're going to make mistakes. And we got into an endgame. He went here. I went rook e8 attacking the pawn, and then he blundered, right? I can take his knight now. He has to take, and he walks directly into this. I think he played on for a little bit because, you know, it's no guarantee at all that Mr. GothamChess is going to pull off a win. And the reason why this endgame is winning is because I preserve 1 pawn. Rook and bishop versus rook is not always a win. You can win it, but it's not always a win. This one's a win because I can take on a5, rook a1, b1 queen. And except for one scare, that was a nice second game. Now, I told you, I played good chess for the most part. This game was pretty good. The next game was fantastic. I was actually playing the game of my life. But like I told you in the introduction, it got so stupid at the end, so ridiculous, so you can make fun of me. Because listen, I make fun of low elo chess all the time. This is not low elo chess. But you know, you can still make fun of me. And it's not always GM level, you know what I'm saying? So my opponent went e4. I played the Scandinavian defense. In the previous game, I played the modern defense. And in the first game, I played the Trumpowski. These are all some of my favorite openings. Trumpowski, I really like playing the modern defense. The Scandinavian's been great. I mean, I win so many of my games in this opening. It's amazing. And in this game, we get to see what happens when the opponent plays the Lionheart Gambit. It's a good gambit. Let's move b4 against the Scandinavian. It's very tricky for noobs because you have to keep your queen on the board and the rook activates. This is some ridiculous move. I've never seen the move a4 in my life. But rook b1 is generally the idea, and then, you know, white tries to just get a big attack. A4 I've never seen. The idea is, I would imagine, to play this, and maybe even to play this. To play a5 and disallow my queen from escaping, which is why I played queen a5 myself. So now we're just playing a Scandinavian. It's kind of funny. We're playing this position, except my opponent pushed a4 and had to throw this pawn off a cliff. So imagine white here got 2 turns. For one of the turns, white played a4, and for the other move, he ate his own pawn. He just put it in his mouth, chewed it, and swallowed it, and you have the exact same position. Who does this benefit? A little bit white, a little bit black, right? Bishop to a3, and I just played c6 so that the knight can't access these squares. He developed another piece. I developed some more pieces as well. But from the opening, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing fine. I kind of like my position. However, the computer prefers white's position. I went e6 because I was like, okay, I'm going to trade the bishop for the knight. I'm up a pawn, so now let's trade bishops as well. He went here. I took with first I gave a check, actually. I thought this was extremely fancy. He went king f1, and instead of playing king f1, he should have retreated. See, I thought I was doing something smart here that, you know, my opponent has to retreat a piece out of the middle before I take on f8. The computer just thinks I'm a moron. He also thought I was a moron, but in this position, everything is different. Because now it's going to take his king multiple moves to get the shelter. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Then I'm going to go here. Then I'm going to bring my rooks. And I'm just up a pawn, right? I'm just very happy with an itchy nose. Rook e1. Queen d4. Attacking the bishop and attacking the pawn. He goes here. I was like thinking, should I take this? Maybe it's too dangerous. Let me just finish my development. And he went queen takes c6. By the way, you might look at that and go, Levy, did you just blunder this pawn? No. I spent 32 seconds on the move knight d7. And it just so happens to be the best move. Why? Well, I gotta figure out what I'm doing long-term in this position. If I move my king into the middle and try to bring my rook, I wasn't satisfied with my king being in the middle. If I go g6 and here, I wasn't satisfied that he could move his knight, start attacking my queen. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make him take my pawn. And in taking my pawn, I am then going to activate the rest of my pieces and bring my rooks to the middle. And I'm just gonna argue, hey, the way he's played this is pretty stupid. He has a weak pawn. I'm gonna get his bishop. I'm gonna get this pawn. And I was like, I don't see any threats. I mean, he can sacrifice the bishop, but there's not enough threats there. So he went g4. He committed fully to the attack, but that allows me to activate my rook. pushes queen back. And now I was sitting there wondering, okay, a few moves ago, in this position, I thought it was too dangerous to take this pawn. Because he had rook d1, rook d8. Now we're in the exact same position here, except I've brought out a knight, right? And he's only pushed g4. Can I take? And sure enough, I absolutely could. So I correctly evaluated the danger. I correctly defended my king and brought out my pieces. Even though my king is in the middle, it's actually maybe even safer than his king. Now he has a problem. The problem is he's down a pawn. The problem is I have more pieces in the attack than him. And the problem is I might even have counterplay against this very king, right? So he goes here. I'm like, well, I'm up a pawn. Of course I'm going to trade. That's a no-brainer. He goes here. I'm like, okay, I activate my rook. Simple chess. Queen's under attack. I want to trade some pieces. Where's he going to go? He goes here. He brings the queen all the way back because he doesn't want to trade, but now his king doesn't have an escape. And I bring my second rook, and I'm sitting there thinking, my opponent has 9 seconds. I have 32. I know I am completely winning here. Completely winning. Why am I completely winning? By the way, this is not mate. I know some of you looking. It's not mate. I'm going to go knight c5, take like his whole queen side. I'm going to win all these pieces, by the way. What is he going to do to me? Now, most people here, they do what the kids call locking in. They lock in, right? And then they try to win the game. I do the opposite. My heart starts racing. I start getting diarrhea. Not like sitting here in this chair, but and I feel like a deer in the headlights. And like I already told you, this game is going to get really crazy. So he goes here. I put my queen on f4. I don't know why I spent 6 seconds on that move. He goes here. I target his bishop. Right? Target his bishop. He goes king g1. Okay? I take his bishop. He takes. Now, I see that if I take, he has queen b7. So rather than allow this, I block in his queen completely. I thought this was such a nice move. He goes h4, trying to make some space. I go rook c2. He goes here. I'm like, this is the ugliest position that a king, a queen, and 2 rooks have ever been in. I am making them, I am tying all their shoes together. I mean, he doesn't have a move. Now I have to just win the game. So at this point, I do take the pawn. I take the pawn because queen b7 doesn't scare me, as I simply walk over here, and these pawns are really weak. He does what anybody would do. He tries to trade with me. Now I'm ASAP trading this off. And I go queen a4, and I'm like, I'm up 3 pawns. I took this dude's entire queen side. All I have to be careful about now is my king. Queen g3 and some, you know, I will bring the queen back. Like he went here, and I brought the queen back threatening a queen trade. He went here. But look at my time. Somehow I got to less time than him because I physically cannot bring myself to make the moves. He goes here. I'm looking at different checks. There's a check here, right? So what do? I try to cover the check. He activates the rook. Now I'm really scared because I had a few ideas. My ideas were rook c1, trying to trade the rooks. My ideas were, you know, rook f3, queen f3. Now I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Of course I could just play a5. Like I could just play a5 and not panic. But I'm seeing this. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Okay, rook c4. I attack the queen. Queen goes here. Now I'm like, all right, what do I do? e5. Oh, this is so nice. I completely blocked him out. He goes g5. Now, g5, if he takes, is a little scary because he's going to get his queen in. Again, I don't have to panic here. But I do, and not only do I panic, I lose the game on the spot. I play this move with 1 second on the clock. I could barely physically get the move off. You know, he played f6, he played g5, and I was like, you know, like, this is not even a threat, by the way, because I can take with the queen. I can even probably take with the king, maybe. f5 loses the pawn on e5 with a check, and the queen and the rook just get in. The queen gets this and this, and I lose. When I played f5, my heart just sank because I knew, I saw immediately. But he had 3.9 seconds and he went here because he did not, I guess he didn't expect the move. Because he just, I don't know what he expected. He probably expected me to defend myself somehow. Maybe he also missed it. He went here. And here, with 0.6 seconds on the clock, played rook g4. I was 0.6 seconds away from losing the game on time. Now I'm going to win his queen. He goes here. I took his queen. I took his queen with 0.1 second on the clock. You gain 1 second in Title Tuesday. 0.1 seconds on the clock. I played this move. I played this move a little faster. I pre-moved this move almost. And now I have 1.9 seconds. I'm waiting for his move. Is he going to queen? He goes here. I play this move in 1.4 seconds. And then he goes here, and I took his queen. And now I just have to make some moves and not lose on time. So my next few moves, I gain enough time on the clock that I don't lose on time at all. And he resigns. He might have run his clock out. In this tournament, I won 3 games against 28, 50 plus level opposition. 2850, 2880. I think all the ratings of my opponents are also adjusted after losses. So this guy was 2895. The first opponent was like 2940 when we played or something completely crazy. I was very proud of these games, because I haven't had a good 2025 in terms of my chess. And last year I ended with 2 very, very bad tournaments as well. I had one last August, which is crazy that it's been so long, yeah, I had another really bad one, and that sucks, man. That really sucks. I've been working on the channel. I've been working on Chessly. In the meantime, I finished up a second book, which is currently being edited, How to Win a Chess 2 for intermediate players, in case you are wondering. There is a third book coming, which will be a surprise. I'll announce it when it's ready. And, yeah, that's been my life. Hopefully we get back to playing consistently like this a bit more often. King's Indian course dropping soon. Also, today we launched a July challenge on Chessly. To be consistent, you can win an exclusive and unique badge only in the month of July. Beautiful badge, golden palm trees badge on your Chessly account. So check that out. And the King's Indian course is coming soon, as well as some others. That's all I have for you today. Appreciate your support as always, and get out of here.